Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today I've done one video already, and this one will be the last of a political nature. But it's been kind of a historic weekend in the United States because we had an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, who is the front-running presidential candidate at the moment. And then we had our current president, Joe Biden, call Zelensky by Putin's name in front of an international audience. So basically, Biden is so out of it at the moment that he called this gentleman by the name of Putin, who has invaded this gentleman's country and killed hundreds, if not thousands, of their citizens and soldiers that are fighting against Putin. So it's a pretty significant blunder and pretty embarrassing, saying that this person is supposed to be the most powerful man in the world and he can't even remember who his allies and his enemies are. But with that being said, one of the other things I wanted to do this video on is just the nature of the fact that in America, the democratic piece of a republic is that we should be able to select our leaders through the democratic process. And unfortunately, currently, with the way things have gone in the last 15 to 20 years, people are so right or so left on their opinions and how they interpret government and how they interpret leadership in government at the moment that we have probably the most ineffective president that we've ever had. And even worse than that, the guy's not doing the job. So it came out this week that he hasn't met with his cabinet in over 9 months, which is criminal. We have a 25th Amendment to remove people just like this. And the fact that the Congress hasn't acted and people haven't acted, that actually is an act of treason because we pay them to do a job and currently we're not getting that job done. So if you ignore the situation with Donald Trump, where someone actually took it upon them to try to assassinate a president in America, or a presidential candidate and a former president in America in 2024, if that doesn't seem third worldish and the most ridiculous suggestion possible, then look at the actual president, whose vice president is so bad, they're talking about him not running, which he declares they will have to remove him, kicking and screaming. He intends to run and be the president again, even though he knows for himself he cannot do the job and he's not been doing the job. So he would put the country at risk and put himself first, which is exactly what he's doing. And then he hasn't met with his cabinet, and his cabinet hasn't done anything about that and followed the 25th Amendment to remove him because he's not doing what's required in the process or in due process of the position. So you have that. And he has a vice president that's so severely limited that the Democratic Party does not want her as an option even. They're talking about who can it be, and she's not even coming up, even though she's occupied the vice presidential spot for over 3 years at this point. So American politics is a joke most times, meaning none of them give a single care about the people they're supposed to represent. Historically in this country, there's no limitations on Congress. We only have a 2-term limit on the president position. We should have a limitation to 2 terms on every single position in the federal government, because by not doing that, this is what you end up with. You end up with a laughable embarrassment of what should be a representative government and should be something for people to aspire to around the world. And their constant bastardization and attacking of the Constitution of this country, which they all take a oath to defend and uphold when they take their offices, they don't understand what that means, because the instant they get into the office, they try to attack that based on something else. So here's the point of the video. Biden's an embarrassment no matter who you vote for. The guy's a joke. He's the worst president we ever had, and he's been vacant. The office has been vacant for the last 10 months. He hasn't met with his cabinet for the last 9. That's against the law. Okay? We have the 25th Amendment that should have removed him, but nobody's actively removed him, so that's an act of treason by everyone else in those positions that's not doing that supposedly or appropriately within the limits of the law. So that's number 2. And then the next piece around American politics, if Americans don't start paying more attention, trillions of dollars now are being sent elsewhere. Trillions of dollars are now going elsewhere. That money's getting washed, and your politicians are getting richer and richer. You don't have any term limits on your politicians, and then you pay them for life. Whether they do a good job or a bad job, you're paying them for life. The minimum of those pay ranges is $179,000 a year. So for life, we're paying somebody $179K that may or may not have done the job and may have put us in a worse position because of it. And let me ask you a question about this absentee president everybody keeps having so much favor for. And Trump, love him or hate him, he's different. And when he's in office, we have a better economy. Look at Joe Biden's economy and the inflation right now. Look at what the country's battling with. Businesses cannot pay their bills. They cannot keep their doors open because the cost of goods is up 170%. That's not a fiction. That's not a fictitious number. That's not a falsehood. That's something you can go out and see. Look back 6 years ago and look at where we're at now. And I say back 6 years because you're going back prior to this Biden situation. And Biden wants to talk about the number of jobs that were created, etc. Well, a lot of jobs ended during COVID. So that was on an uptick when he took office because companies had to recover and the country had to recover from COVID. And people are not paying attention to the facts around any of this stuff, which is embarrassing. So here's the point. If we continue to do what we're doing, then we should expect to suffer fools because that's what we're doing. If we don't get our stuff together and don't start to do better there, then what do we expect to leave our kids and grandkids? So last of the political videos that I'll post for some time, I just like to call out what I've seen and how ridiculous this weekend was and how much of a clown show we've now created with allowing the polarization of American citizens by politicians. Guys, if you want to be polarized and hate someone else that lives in this country for no reason because you think they think a certain way instead of talking to them first, see where that gets you. Go back in history and look at every country that did this that was a republic. It tears the country apart. Now, will America will go on forever. This is not anytime soon that America is going to fail, but America moving forward may not look like it did coming to now. And if we don't start voting more appropriately and more precisely around what we need as a country, and we keep letting one or two outliers that people promise be how you vote, then we deserve what happens, right? If you don't get involved to try to do something different locally, you deserve suffering these fools. Do all you can to vote better, pick the best option, and if it gets to the point that it has been where we're picking the least of two evils, that's not the way to go, right? You should be able to pick. And think about this, too, with the presidential election specifically. It's always between 1 and 2 percentage points. How's that possible? There's not a candidate that's so good that we should vote 79% for that candidate versus the 51 and the 49 or the 50.007 and the 50.003. I mean, come on. We really are that separated in America that we can't look at a person and say, all right, this is the best qualified candidate for this position, so let's give this person the job based on their resume and based on their history. We truly want to go back and forth and let the same four things, abortion, gay rights, gun rights, the constitutional amendments, that's what we're going to keep letting people promise and lie to us about. I've been here for a little over 40 years. It's been that same story my whole life. Nothing's changed. Okay? Nothing's going to change. And as long as people get fired up about those subjects, they're going to keep doing that and keep getting you fired up about those subjects. So you keep letting these politicians stay in politics for 50 years like Joe Biden. A politician should be in politics for 16 years tops. That means they go through the House, they represent you as a senator, a congressperson for 1 or 2 terms, and maybe a president is 1 or 2 terms, and that should be the end of it. 16 to 20 years. There should be no 50-year possibilities. That should not exist in America. The expectation is when someone goes into a political office, once they serve their terms, that they go back into the normal citizen population and have to be citizens once again. What that suggests is they're going to vote more appropriately to take care of citizens because they're going to have to return to that lifestyle. When you pay these idiots for a lifetime, they don't have to do that anymore. So they screw you that much harder. They serve themselves and they serve corporations. The Constitution is what gives the power to the government. The Constitution is the rights of the people. Giving powers to the government should limit everything else, like organizations and big corporate structures and those type things. Ultimately, the power should remain with the people. If the people are constantly split and arguing about nothing while we're giving away the country $10, $12, $20 trillion every 6 months to other countries instead of putting it back here, we have our own homeless, we have people that can't eat, we have schools that don't have funding, right? We have teachers resigning at a record pace because there's no discipline and no support. Think about that. What America do you want? What you do when you vote, that matters. If someone's got a history and their history says they've done this successfully or they've done this unsuccessfully, you should look at that. That's how you should vote. You shouldn't vote because someone says these 3 magic words on these 5 subjects that you care about. Those 5 subjects are important. That shouldn't be dismissed. But at the end of the day, what are you leaving behind when you go? Okay? I'm Ben. If you like subject matter such as this, please subscribe. Be good.